I grew up in a family where we were always very solution-oriented, so complaining was not a thing.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and hands-on learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Valérie, very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Yes, thanks. I'm very happy to be here.
You are the co-founder at WikiWorks, a company which is revolutionizing the way we write in Europe towards a more inclusive society. And before we talk about your numerous projects and your entrepreneurial journey, we want to start with your personal background. You studied multimedia at the SAE Institute in Zurich. By then, was entrepreneurship at all on your radar as a career choice or path?
No, not at all. The reason or the problem was I didn't find an appropriate job after finishing my diploma. I was looking for a diverse job like doing coding and design in the same time or in projects. But there were either front-end development jobs or web design jobs, as they were called 20 years ago. And I had neither the experience for being a developer or a real designer, so I didn't find the right job, and so I designed actually my own job.
That's the right path forward then. So in 2000, that was where you actually founded iWeb4U, one of the first web shops in Bern. And so you really were sort of a pioneer because you then said, hey, that job doesn't exist, so I just create my own one. What was really motivating you besides creating your own job to not work for someone else, but for yourself instead? Was there anything else that particularly motivated you to go down that path?
I mean, as I said, I didn't find the right job, but I grew up in a family where we were always very solution-oriented. So complaining was not a thing in our family. We always were looking for solutions. That was the way for me to work. Like if I don't find a job, I already then had a good network. And I had my first web design jobs from friends and families, and that's how it started actually. And I thought, hey, if I can make some money with that, why not? And on top, I still have freedom. That means I can decide how I work, where I work, for whom I work, and the aspect of freedom always was a very strong motivator for me to do something.
You also moved out of your parents' house with just 18 years old. Where did that motivation come from? You know, that freedom was such an important thing for you. What was there any trigger for you to really focus on that freedom aspect, or what really motivated you?
There are multiple aspects. One other aspect is also that at young age I learned to take responsibility and was very aware of my duties. So at home we had this so-called family board every week where tasks were distributed. And I knew by then already I'm able to earn my own money because I was working. You know, besides going to the college, I did different jobs, and I earned enough money. I earned about 1,000 francs a month to rent a room or a studio, and just to have to make my own decisions. And yes, we had this. My parents were always quite strict with us, with me and my siblings, and I wanted to decide more things alone. So. And
then you decided to move out.
And then I did the math and a budget, and I thought that it will be okay. I will be fine.
Nice. And then if we fast forward a bit from 2002 to 2010, you worked on various projects and engagements. And I think that was also the time where you've actually had sponsors, as you called them, other people that actually supported you, introduced you to their network and so on. So can you talk a bit more about how you met these sponsors and in what way that they helped you in your career to move forward?
Yes, sure. So, I mean, sometimes it's hard to believe, but I was rather a shy and silent young woman. But what I felt very quickly is that I have an ability to connect with people. And I like to connect with people and get to know them. So it was always very easy for me to approach people, also unknown people. And I had the chance to meet the business and professional women community in Bern, where I got a member, and where this networking thing, I was 20 years old, was a great thing for me. And I was very successful in this, but also because I always decided to engage myself more than just being a member. For example, I was in the board of this community with 22, and like this, everyone knew me and knew what I do. And by the time then, being a web designer and being able to code websites was not something you could find everywhere. So it was easy for me to connect with people. And I also have to add that I did a lot of sport or in my whole life, and also sport helped me a lot to connect with people, with like-minded people, and I had the possibility to create a really strong friendship, and also there I had people, they saw the potential in myself.
And I mean, building that network, that's one thing, right? So you were a natural talent at this, but then how has that actually helped you in your career to move forward? What sort of results did you get out of your network? Were they introducing you to new jobs, or did you win clients?
Yes, exactly. So being an entrepreneur myself, I of course had a big network also of other entrepreneurs. So, for example, they gave me jobs, or they introduced me to other people they knew in significant positions, you know. So I had at young age already also access to CEOs and executive boards where the decisions were made, and this helped me. And also these people encouraged me to go further, and they invited me for talks or speeches or things like that. And then one got the other thing. Yes.
Sure. So you got the stone rolling, and then basically took it from there.
Yes. Somehow, yes.
And that encouragement, that was also something that I think, I mean, your parents, they were super active themselves, but also a bit strict, as you said. Yeah. So the connections that you made, they also really motivated you to go and find your own way, something that you didn't really get from home, if I understood you in our prep call correctly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, exactly. And I was always, this is also a thing of my character. I'm very interested in new things. I feel a strong urge to learn a lot, and I like challenges. So I often said yes to new challenges without doing a whole analysis. So as a good friend of mine always says, momentum is more important than being right.
And how can you actually make sure that the momentum is on your side? Can you influence that?
Well, I try to listen to my feelings and how it feels. If something feels good, why shouldn't I try it out? I mean, if it doesn't, if I fail, well, I will learn something and I can do something else. So I was never afraid of failing or of learning and change. My whole life, when I look back in my career, not only professional but also private, I had a lot of changes in my life. And I mean, a change is always a hard thing. it needs a lot of energy and so on. But the learning curve is tremendous. Yeah, it really brought me to the point I am today.
Yeah. You also stay young and fresh that way, I can imagine.
Yes, that's true.
So then after your sponsor time, basically, it was time to take on a CEO role. In 2010, basically, you joined Ginetta and were also CEO for 6 years. I wonder in the first place, why did you actually join that company and stop then working for yourself?
So the founder of Ginetta, Simon, he was a very good friend of mine, and we already founded another company in 2004. I can't remember the year. It was CMS Box. By the time then, it was one of the first CMS tools where you had inline editing. I mean, you can't imagine today. He was always such an inspiring person for me. And we had a very good relationship, and we met for lunch here in Zurich. I was working at Parks and was a Salesforce consultant, and he was working for Google as a designer, and he said, "Hey Valerie, I founded this company, Ginetta. I want to do user experience design. I have 2 employees, but I have no time to acquire new clients, and I need help. Do you want to take over? Do you want to be the CEO? And just make sure that we can keep on working and that I don't have to close the company." And I said to him, yes, because I want to have more, I want to use more creativity in my job. As a Salesforce consultant, I felt a little bit limited. And I also I didn't have the position in the company to create or to change things, right? So this was very clear, and I told him it was Simon is also from Bern like me, and Ginetta was a Bernese company, and I told him, but hey, there is one thing, we need to open a shop in Zurich, because here is the place to be, and in Bern I didn't want to go back, and here we have the whole tech and startup scene, so it's much more inspiring. So that's what we did then.
Was that an easy move for you? Because I know people from Bern, myself included, it hurts if you have to leave Bern and move to Zurich, right?
No, it didn't hurt. And I was already here. So I already lived here. And I came here 13 years ago now. And it was a very, it was my own decision to move from Bern to Zurich, because I didn't have a perspective in Bern anymore. On my professional side, but also on my private side, I thought like I just need a change.
Right. And then you made that change happen. You moved to Zurich and built the company here. Mm-hmm. Before you talked about momentum, and also with Ginetta, timing, which I think is equal to momentum, was a really important thing. You basically were in the right place at the right time, right? Because UX and user research was just basically taking off and becoming more important.
I would say it was the moment before the topic really took off, but this was good because when the topic got really hot, we were already here and we had some success stories to tell. And but it was not an easy way. The first 2 years were really hard. I mean, we did a lot of projects, but I can't remember that we did user research. So selling user research was really hard. And then we started to work with Doodle, and Doodle was one of the first company where we really applied the whole research and design process. It was in 2011.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So the timing was not right, but you were basically there and ready when the timing would change, right?
Yeah. So it was the right momentum to start.
Right. can you tell us how the difference feels when you actually feel, okay, the timing is right on spot, I am in the right place at the right time, versus you are hoping that you get there one day, but you aren't there yet? How does that feel? How do you really also realize and recognize the difference?
Of course, you see it on the amount of requests you have, of course. And then also financially. I mean, if you feel like that what you are telling the whole day is really, clients are really interested, and they also want to apply this kind of process. Not only one part, because they are always telling you, we don't need user research because we know what our customer wants. Yep. I mean, this is a totally different feeling. And the great part about this, that you can bring them much more value, and you also have, I mean, you know so much as a consultant or as a designer, you know so much about the process, and always doing only one little part with a lot of assumption, it's hard for a designer. Right. So if you can apply the whole process, it's just a better feeling. And you don't, I mean, when you offer something and the client only wants a part, you always have this feeling of being rejected. Mm-hmm. And of course, at the end of the day, if you are not making enough money because also of that, it's not only something you feel in your bank account, on your bank account, but also of your value, you know.
Got it. Another thing that you were basically well known for at Ginetta was that you had actually more female employees across all areas than your peer companies or other companies in the same sector. So you basically acted sort of as a role model for diversity early on. And even competitors then came to you and asked, how did you make that happen? How did you get to that state? Can you talk a bit more about how you actually built the company and also had a good diversity from day one, basically?
Mm-hmm. Well, how did we do this? I mean, diversity was not a topic by then, 10 years ago, and inclusion neither. But being a female CEO helped me to attract also a female talent pool. And because I had two employees, Andrea and Gens, and it was me, so we were two women, one man. And the third employee was also a woman, it was Tanya. And then we had a fifth, this was a male. And so we had this balance from the beginning without doing something by plan. It was just, it came like this. And of course, if you have a good balance, the company culture will always address female and male needs. And then it comes a normal thing, right? And work-life balance and also the needs of our employees were always on the first, on the top of our agenda. Or yeah, it was, we always said, Simon and me, if we can, we wanna build a company culture where everyone feels good and included. And this helped us to also address those needs of our employees. So what we did externally, like with our customer, when we always said user first or customer first, we did the same internally, like saying employee first.
And how did that show in practice? Like, were there any specific initiatives or anything that you paid special attention to?
Yeah, we did a lot of social events. Mm-hmm. We have had lunch, we had aperos, we were celebrating a lot. I mean, we were also working hard a lot, of course, and we used social media to transfer this culture outside. So everyone always gave you the feedback that we are very approachable as a company, but also as individuals. And the individuals of the company were always more important than the company. So you are not in contact with Ginetta, you are in contact with person X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Usually it's the opposite, right? That the company is more important than the individuals in terms of how other companies communicate.
Yeah. But in a service agency, it's the employees who are the biggest assets. It's not the brand.
Good point.
Yeah. Mm.
And do you have any example of like messages that you shared across social media or stories that you told there to really make that the people behind the company more approachable?
Yeah, we portraited those employees, of course, or they still do, by the way. Yeah, we made a lot of pictures. We had a big community on Instagram, and also the employees themselves, they shared a lot of content all the time. And this is the most valuable thing, because if only the company profile is sharing, and maybe the social media manager, it's a different value. But if the CEO and all the employees are posting a lot and sharing how cool and how inspiring working at Ginetta is, this is the best employer branding campaign you can have.
And it's free of charge.
And it's free of charge. And it's authentic. We didn't tell them to do it, right? But also there, I think I was a good role model for them because I did it as well. Mm-hmm. And that's what I see often. I mean, if leaders of companies are not sharing, it's hard that the other will share because they are role models. So, I mean, it's how it works.
That's right. I think that's very impressive. You basically made your employees also the ambassadors of the company, yes, but on a very personal level. And I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, at WittyWorks, we did it the exact same way.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to talk about that in a second, because in 2015, you became a mother. Uh-huh. And there you also said, hey, it's time to have more women in tech, but also just diversity and inclusion in tech. So when you became a mother in 2015, you then, on top of that, like you didn't have enough to do, founded WeShapeTech, a community that was really focused on women in tech, but also diversity and inclusion in tech. Can you talk a bit more about the motivation to get started there?
Sure. Well, as you said already, I was approached by many other entrepreneurs when I was at Ginetta about how we do it to have such a big diversity, not only in gender, but also cultural and from background and nationality. Mm-hmm. And I then started also to be invited for talks about this topic. And I was like, what should I say? I mean, what did we do? And I started to research a lot and also found more out about unconscious bias and about stereotypes and about how girls or boys are growing up, and that there are differences. And that's how I get aware of the problems we have in our in IT and tech and the whole startup world, or the whole business world, we can say. I saw that women in IT don't have enough visibility, and I wanted to start a movement where we can give those women more visibility. Actually, that was my main motivation, and because I had a big network of women in tech, I wanted to share this. And that's how I started together with Tanya and Janine. I started WeShapeTech. And because I didn't have time as a CEO at Ginetta to start this, I did it during my maternity leave because, I had some time. I mean, the baby was sleeping a lot.
Nice.
And I had the energy and the motivation to do that. And also there, I think it was a momentum. It was in 2015. We had our first event of WeShapeTech in March 2016. And our goal was to have 100 women in tech at our event. And we built a website, 100 Women in Tech, where every woman who was at our event was photographed with a statement, cool. What diversity is and why this is a business imperative, right? Yeah. And this gave us so much visibility because we had so much content to share and everyone was sharing. So this goal, we topped that goal, I would even say. And that was then the beginning of the whole diversity and inclusion journey. Or my personal diversity and inclusion journey.
Nice. I also think it's a really cool and important initiative. We also have a partnership coming up between WeShapeTech and Swisspreneur.
Yeah, I heard about it. That's
so,
great.
It's still in the making, but will hopefully be released soon. Mm-hmm. But WeShapeTech was set up as a non-profit, or still is a non-profit association today. Exactly. So then 3 years later, in 2018, you said, this is a really important topic. I really want to push it, but I also need to be able to earn money with that. And that's when you founded WittyWorks.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you talk about how that transition happened and why you had this feeling that you wanted to go further down that path and really push that topic?
Yeah, I mean, with WeShapeTech, as you said, it was a non-profit, but we got approached by a lot of companies in the IT and tech sector, and I started actually to do consulting for free. You know, I mean, we talked about events we could do together, but of course, then there were more questions, and I thought that can't be the way, because it's so much time I'm investing in that, and I need, either we find a business model or I have to stop that. And we didn't find a business model, so I stopped also my engagement with WeShapeTech because I had other interesting possibilities as a CPO at Mila and so on. And but I always came back to this topic, and when I started discussing with Nadia, she was a colleague of me. She was working in another agency, and we had some contact through Best of Swiss Web events and things like that. We both said, hey, we want to do a business. We want to help and support companies with the lack of diversity and show them how you can build a more inclusive culture. And we want to, and this was from the beginning, it was clear we want to build software to help them. But it was not exactly clear what software when we started with WittyWorks. So we concentrated on rewriting job ads, because what everyone told us that they don't get applications from women. And if you don't get applications from women, of course, it's hard to hire them. So that was our starting point. So that's how then we founded WittyWorks with this idea.
Can you talk a bit more about the product that you're offering today? What is the exact software that you sell or that you help companies with?
Yes, exactly. So we were rewriting more about hundreds of job ads for our clients, and we did this manually. And we thought, actually, we should try to build a software, a text assistants who do this work. And that's how Lucas came in the game in 1.5 years ago. He's a software developer, and he was very motivated to help to diversify the whole IT and tech sector as well. And together with him, we designed and developed the Diversifier. That's our product. And that Diversifier is a text assistant who helps you to write inclusive job ads. It means that it's a little bit like Grammarly, not for grammar, but for inclusive writing. That means you copy your job ad in a text field, and it shows you with different colors which words or sentences are not attractive for women, because there is a female and a male connotated language. So the male connotated is a very competitive language, and female language is more a bit softer, and it's more communal. It's more the together, building something together than building something alone and being the best.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually in a few words, that's the main difference. And if you want that women apply, you have to change the way you write. I mean, this is one thing, but also for example, you have to know the behavior of women in terms of requirements. Mm-hmm. So a man applies when he fulfills maybe 50% of the requirements because he is very self-aware and he thinks, I will learn the rest, or I know that. A woman is very critical with herself, and she's really exact. Means if she has no experience in one requirement, she won't apply. And as a recruiter, you have to be aware of that. Mm-hmm. And the less requirements, the more women will apply. So that are two hacks. I would say it's quite easy hacks. It's no rocket science, but if you are concentrating on that, you will have more than 42% of women and other people applying.
Wow.
Before we continue with the show, we'd like to introduce you to Swisspreneurs' main partner, Clara Business, the digital all-in-one solution for small businesses. Managing internal processes manually and on paper wastes an incredible amount of time. That's why Clara digitizes everything, allowing you to focus on what really matters, your core business. Go to clara.ch to find out how your business administration can be simpler, faster, and more efficient. Again, that's clara.ch. And now, on with the show.
That's an impressive learning. Do people also use your diversifier software for other areas despite job ads, for example, for press releases or things like that?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So we started with this job ad rewriting app, but we see a lot of more potential, of course. I mean, myself, I put every text I write into the diversifier to check. And this is also the vision. Mm-hmm. So the vision is to revolutionizing the way we write. So not only job ads, but also internal communication, external communication. It's more than employer branding and recruitment. It's how you talk to people, because language forms our thoughts, and thoughts forms our decisions. So language is a very powerful tool.
And in the end, this is a very important and crucial part of your whole company culture, right?
It is, yeah, but not everyone sees like this today.
Not yet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And in what languages is the diversifier available today?
Yeah, so we started right away with German, English, and French. Mm-hmm. So we have these three languages. Yes, of course, we have mainly Swiss clients, but we had some success in recent months. We now also have clients from Germany and Austria, and also we are talking also now to clients from France.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Now, I would like to take a step back and look at the times in retrospect. From 2000 to 2018, when you actually founded WittyWorks, what has changed from your experience? Or asked differently, how much progress do you think Switzerland made when it comes to job equality between 2000 and 2018? Is there any development that you've observed?
Yes, of course. I mean, the topic today is top of mind. All the media is full of it. And it's also a momentum, I would say, right now. In 2010, nobody talked about diversity or inclusion. I mean, I can't remember. And being a CEO at that time as a woman was something who was really rare. And today I see more and more women in top leadership position, and this makes me really proud. And I'm very happy to see, because it will bring us further, not only in the business world, but also as a society. Mm-hmm. And I think thanks to many female activists who are really always pointing out the topic or the importance of diversity, we are where we are today in Switzerland. And we are behind many other countries. I mean, we are far behind, and we have a lot of work ahead. But the progress is here, and it's a good time now.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's like there was some good progress, but it's still a long way to go, basically. Yeah,
it's for my taste, it's going a little bit too slow, mm-hmm. But it's important to see also little progress, because a lot of baby steps make big steps at the end, right?
True.
And in this way, I really. In the next 5 years, there will be a lot of progress in this topic. And I think the pressure is really high now. I mean, companies who are not, the HSG, the school the university in St. Gallen is doing the gender report every year. And most of the companies are still in state 1, where they just are aware that there is something has to be done, but they are not acting actually, but this awareness will transform.
Yep.
I'm sure about that, and it will be a differentiator in the future. Companies who are already diverse and that have an inclusive culture, they will attract just more diversity. And as diversity is a leverage for more successful innovation, I mean, you better start today.
Yeah, if you don't, you will basically miss out.
Yes.
And jeopardize your potential future success.
Yeah, exactly.
In that regard, now you mentioned, companies get more and more aware, but the actions are still a bit missing. What else is still going wrong or missing in Swiss companies in regards to diversity from your perspective?
Well, it's the mindset. So it needs a mindset change. And most leaders still think, if they say, yes, I'm open for everyone and we really invite women to work for us, and so the problem will be solved by itself, but it won't. And I like to do to compare it with digital transformation. I mean, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, companies starting having maybe a website and then maybe a newsletter. And later, of course, the website was normal, and then they thought about digitalization of processes, e-commerce, and all these things started. But this also didn't happen by chance. And if those companies who don't put digital transformation on top of their agenda, they are way behind today. You see it with banks and other institutions, right? And it's the same with diversity. If you haven't goals, and if you create or design a strategy to get your goals, nothing will change, or only very slowly. No. And that's where we are today. I mean, and what I also see what I also often see is in startups, right? We still have more male founders than female founders. I mean, we are also in the change there, but the awareness of diversity is not here. Yeah. And time is always more important than quality. And of course, I know you have to ship and you have to achieve your goals and so on, but it's crucial at the beginning, because if you are not doing your homework in recruiting diversity at the very beginning, your culture will be a homogeneous culture, a bro culture most of the time.
And that's very hard to break.
And then you have to invest so much energy and so much measures to change this. It will cost you much more. I see that in so many startups, mostly in the one who are growing very quickly, right? And actually, growth. If you grow your employee numbers, that's the momentum to hire women. Not only one, but maybe half of it or a third, because the third is the crucial number.
Why?
To have a change. Yeah, because studies show that if you have a third of your team or of your leadership team, a third of women, culture will change. And innovation and collaboration will have a direct impact on your culture and your financial revenue.
Nice.
If this number is too small, one person or two person within 10 or 12 won't have enough impact.
Yep, got it.
Yes.
Are there any tips that you can give to companies? I mean, now you already mentioned some sorts with the diversifier template that you offer, but just in general, what can companies do to become more diverse and really not only are aware of that challenge and that issue that they have to solve, but really go into the doing and act?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is really to get aware of unconscious bias. So reflecting on own privileges you have. And once you understand how decisions are made, that 90% of our decisions is not rational, is emotional, or is driven by biases. How we see the world is more about how we were socialized, how we grew up, what we learned, how we learned. Those things are affecting our decisions so badly. And you have to do a step behind and being aware of unconscious bias. I mean, there are different biases, of course. There are in-group bias, stereotyping bias, bandwagon bias. There are hundreds of bias. But the thing is, you have to design your processes, mainly recruiting or promotion, recruiting process and also promotion process, and bypass the bias, because you can't stop the bias. We are all biased. I am biased as well. And it's hard, you can't stop this. So you have to bypass it and by redesigning your processes. And I think that's point one. But only doing unconscious bias training won't help at all.
There's more to that, right?
Yes, because you will listen and you will think, yes, that's true. Then you go back to your work and
the bias is still there.
It's forgotten. Yes, you really have to analyze your processes.
And what, if a company starts thinking about that, maybe does a workshop about the biases and stuff, what else would you recommend that they really do and execute to get that diversity in a good way?
Yeah, I mean, mostly you start with attracting and employer branding, for example. So as I said already, you can only attract women for your company if they can identify with your company. So what do? They go on your website and they look at the pictures from your team. Yeah. I mean, if there is no women in the team or only one, it will be very hard. So you have to try to show, maybe you already have a very inclusive culture, but of course you don't see this on your website. So you have to start communicate this. Yeah. And then the job ads are crucial. I mean, the job ad is very important, and most of the companies still focus on requirements instead of describing what the job is. You know, because women want to achieve something. They want to have a perspective. So what can I bring in? What is my impact? How much creativity can I use in my job? Mm-hmm. That are the identifiers. That are the important things. And so this is this, and then the recruitment process is very important, that you have a very transparent recruitment process, but also that you have different people deciding, not only one person. Mm-hmm. And the best would be that you have blind CV blindings. You don't see if it's a man or a woman because of the stereotypes. And then also that you focusing maybe more on skills first and later on culture fit. Because many companies are looking for culture fit, right? And this is the absolute wrong way. You don't want someone who is already how you are. You want someone who adds value, and so a person who bring added value to your culture, because innovation needs friction, and innovation. Working towards an innovation like a product or a service who help the clients or the customer needs. You really need different thoughts and different opinions to come up with the best solution for your clients. Mm-hmm. And homogeneity never brought the best solution.
There, I'm personally, we also had to hire people. Uh-huh. Luckily, we have at Swisspreneur, we have a good diversity in the team. Yeah, I think we're above 1/3. That's a good start. Uh-huh, good. Not 50-50 yet, but getting there hopefully. Uh-huh. But what I always saw and personally think is it really important that you still have the same culture to a certain degree, like a shared values, I would say.
Yes, shared values and maybe also mindset.
Exactly, but then complementary skill sets to have different skills from different people. Yeah, yeah. So my question here is, how can you assess that to a certain degree? This is super hard to measure, these kind of things, because at one point you want to make sure that you have a shared basis, that you can work successfully together. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to communicate everything and start from square one. But at the same time, you also want to have the diversity in there to be able to be innovative and have the best results possible. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance these two?
Yes, so in my opinion, or how I recruit, I always first go for the skills. So, and there is very important that when you write your job ads, that you have already the criteria in your mind or on a sheet, what this person needs to bring obligatory. So there are some mandatory things and some things they can learn, right? And this must be clear. And then already the interview, I mostly start with the question of the interview. Mm-hmm. I have these criteria and I formulate the interview questions based on this criteria. Mm-hmm. And I don't mix mindset or values with skills. I like to start with skills. And the question needs to be formulated that the person can talk about her experiences. For example, what's your strengths? that's a stupid question. Because the person who is very good in talking will tell you whatever cool guy he is. Sorry, it's mostly our men more self-aware, not self-aware. They believe more in themselves than women.
Right.
But it's important that you formulate the questions in terms of that they can tell you what they did in their past.
Mm-hmm. And what are you particularly looking there to then identify a good fit or not?
Yeah, well, I mean, what they bring from a skill set. Mm-hmm. And that's the first round. And then on the second round, for me, it's always a task. And there also, I write down criteria I want to see, or I think it's important for the position. And then it's never me alone. It's very important that you are 2 or 3 people. And the most important thing about this is that after an interview, you don't speak together, you fill out the form by yourself. It's your opinion. Because otherwise you have this bandwagon bias, because the strongest person in the room will influence you with his or her opinion. That's also why most of the meetings are not necessary. Because if one person is influencing all the others, you don't need a meeting.
Right, it's already decided then.
Also that's another topic, meetings, how you have to lead meetings, that diversity, that you really have an impact from diversity, because diversity leads to nowhere if not everyone has a voice.
Yeah. For me, it's just fascinating because very often when we talk to startup founders, they usually say, we start with culture first and then the skills they can learn. We don't really look for them too much, of course a bit, but that's not the top priority. You do it the exact opposite. So for me, this is a very refreshing take to see, hey, there's also another way out there to do it and to go about this recruiting process. So.
No, because culture is something you build together.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the mindset is more important. That you want to grow, that you want to learn, that you are willing to leave your comfort zone. I mean, those things have to be given if you want to work in a startup. Right. That you want to go the extra mile. You are able to work in an unsecure environment, things like that, of course. But this doesn't help if the person is not able to do the basic work. Because sure. For me as a founder or as a leader, it will take a lot of work to bring this person where it should go. So it needs to be in a good balance.
I think it's a very fascinating topic. We could probably go on for hours about that. But before we do so, I also want to ask you a bit more about, WityWorks. You started the company in 2018. Now we are in the year 2021. Are there any numbers or success stories that you can share where you currently stand today with WityWorks? Yeah,
sure. Yeah, so on the one hand, we supported and consulted many big Swiss companies in the topic of diversity and inclusion. And on the other way, we built our own software it was the 3 of us building it. We didn't have other support. And this really also makes me proud that we got to that point, and we launched the Diversifier a year ago. In the meantime, we have 31 paying customers who are using the Diversifier, and of course we have a lot of free users as well.
It's always part of the game, I guess.
Yes, sure. We built a very big and strong community. We have more than 6,000 followers on our social media channels. We also have this job board where we publish where our clients are able to publish nice. Directly and independently their job ads. And we have the first clients in Germany, Austria, and soon France. And of course, this is already a big milestone for WittyWorks.
Wow, sounds very nice. Congrats on those milestones.
Thanks.
And, we've seen on your LinkedIn profile, your CV is incredibly long. I mean, from board mandates to founding ventures to being a cycling guide even. It seems you never stand still for too long, and that's also the case here now with WittyWorks, because in January 2021, you decided to take on a new role as CEO at 9 Internet Solutions, leader of managed cloud service solutions in Switzerland. You've already been a board member, but now you take on the role as CEO. So I just wonder, what led you to that decision to sort of say, I leave WittyWorks from the operational role and switch to go and become CEO at 9 Internet Solutions? Mm-hmm. That must have been a very tough decision, I can imagine.
Yes. Yes, you are right. It was a very tough decision, but it was also actually, when I look retrospectively, something which was a process. It was not from one day to another. And I have to very honestly tell you that the last year or the last 2.5 years on a financial aspect were very hard for all of us, because diversity is not the big money bringer. As I told you, I mean, companies are still not having a budget for this topic on the side, or only a few. And moreover, building your own software means that a big part of our time we invested to build the software. I mean, I did the design of the software, and this was a time we didn't earn money at all. And moreover, we also invested money, of course. Right. I mean, to finance the whole technical. I mean, Lucas was doing the development, but also, I mean, you need the infrastructure, right? Yeah. So, I also see that last year with Corona, of course, it was a really hard year. We lost many clients, for consulting in March, and we didn't came to the same level or amount for that. And then we decided to search for investors, and we investigated a lot of time in our pitch, in all these things. I mean, every entrepreneur know all the stuff you have to do to start pitching. It was the financial reason. My savings were gone. As you already said, I also have a kid, and we have our life in Zurich is not the cheapest one, right? And then on the other side, as a board member of 9, I saw what is missing there. That we need a strong leader which has a customer-focused approach, but also can help to change the culture. Mm-hmm. And while discussing in the board who could be the next CEO, my chairwoman approached me with the question if I couldn't take over this role at interim, and I thought, yeah, why not? At interim sounds good, so I can do both. And mm-hmm. then after a moment, I felt this is not me. I mean, I am someone, if I do something, I want to do it right. And I want to have an impact. And at interim CEO, I won't have this impact. Yeah. So, yes, it was a lot of thinking, but at the end, I was really, I really felt, this motivation inside me to help 9, with those aspects or what they need now. And I also, of course, saw a big learning curve, because I never I was not a CEO of such a big company so far, and I've never worked with the executive board. So this was just an awesome opportunity for me. And on the other side, I had to say, hey, here is a CEO role and they want the women. I have to say yes, because that's what I'm telling everybody all the time. I tell women to get out of their comfort zone. I tell companies to hire women in leadership positions. So, I mean,
walk the talk, basically.
Walk the talk, right. Yes.
Impressive. So we are very curious to hear and read and see more of your actions at 9. And just can't wait to see what you're doing and shaking and shaping up there.
Thanks so much.
Before we wrap up the episode, I want to ask you about personal resources and gadgets. Are there any, books or blogs, podcasts that come to mind that I can recommend to our listeners? Also personal gadgets like, I don't know, a specific foam roller to stretch your back or whatever comes to mind.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my biggest success factor, I would say, is endurance sport. Because what I learned is that I need more time to think and reflect to have really good ideas or seeing solutions for problems. So always when I'm stuck, I go out for a run, or in summer I go out for to road cycling, and this really helps me a lot. I would say this is my biggest success factor, and I learned endurance.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But I mean, I do different things. I have different mandates. I have a family. I mean, I don't have so much time to read, to be honest. I would love to read more. I listen sometimes to podcasts. I'm listening to Swisspreneur, of course, and I'm learning a lot, really.
Cool.
I also listening to other podcasts, but I don't have a certain podcast. And what I do is I still try to meet with other inspiring people. I think this always brings me the most. Going into the discussion, listening to others, and having this exchange. For me, this is really important, because I need hands-on advice most of the time. And I don't need, I love to follow Adam Grant. For me, his quotes are so good and so on the point. But yeah, I love to be very practical and have hands-on discussions.
Where do you actually find these people? Do you have them in your network, or do you specifically look for them somewhere to then have a good exchange on a very specific topic?
Yeah, it's both. I have a good entrepreneurial network, I would say. Other CEOs, other startup founders, which I am in a good relationship, and we can count on each other, I would say. I also have a coach, a business coach. Nice. She has 10 years more experience than me. She saw a lot, and I go to her with my questions. This helps me a lot.
That's a very good tip. I think many people don't really realize that this is like a secret weapon that you can use.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And of course, I would also say I always choose my position also in the surroundings who feels good. I would never go somewhere who it doesn't feel good. So at 9, for example, I have a great board of directors, and I feel like we are a team. So this is the most important thing. Or at WittyWorks, finding the right co-founders, people you can connect, not only business-wise, but also in your free time, because you spend so much time together. You go to big challenges together. It needs to feel good.
Sure. And the very last part for you today are some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
We give you a selection or a short question and you can answer it in 1 or 2 sentences. Are you ready?
Sure.
Zurich or Bern?
Zurich. I already elaborated on this, right?
That's where the business plays. Where do you go to think?
Yeah, I go on a run or on my bike.
Lake or mountains?
Mountains.
Nice. Advice to your 20-year-old self?
Think big and believe in you.
I like that. And the last one, female or male co-workers?
Yeah, both, of course. I mean, also just a group of women wouldn't be the right thing.
Yeah. I think that's the logical answer. Valérie, thank you so much for sharing your journey, and we wish you all the best and lots of success for the future. And it was a pleasure having you as a guest.
Thanks a lot.
Now that you've finished listening to the episode, why not top it off with a quick rating on Apple Podcasts? It's one of the best things that you can do to help us reach more entrepreneurs just like you.